Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity for Bajaj to present itself. Yeah, it's fine. Let me start by saying I know I'm terribly underdressed for this occasion, and but there's a reason because yesterday Shireen Khan from CNBC told me she got whistled at as she was walking down the hallway. So I packed my suit up. I didn't want to take that chance. So anyway, I'd like to say hi before I start. And I guess I'm here at the Leadership Forum because we are a company that makes two-wheelers, and we were the market leader in this country when we made a lot of scooters. People don't buy scooters anymore, not in large numbers anyway. So we are not the market leader anymore. So my stories of leadership lost more than leadership gained. But that's also an interesting experience. You know, it tells you what not to do sometimes, which is also important. It's B2B, not because of the business-to-business context of today's gathering, but because the challenge before us was that our main competitor was very strong in the what we call the commuting motorcycle market, and we couldn't make much headway there, and so we had to find a different path. So we said we're going to make the sexier bike, the faster bike, the bike that will get you the babes. So bikes to babes, B2B, is what we called it. And I can also tell you, and let me tell you a secret, when we took it to the chairman and the board, we told them B2B stood for back to basics. So anyway, next please. Mr. Narayan Murthy often gives the example of how he made the decision to say no to a particular customer, a potentially large customer, because he thought that accepting the terms and conditions of that customer could prove counterproductive to the long-term business of Infosys. And I think you have to have tremendous vision to have that kind of conviction. In our case, I have to say it was not so much about great vision, but about having greatness thrust upon us. The blue stands for the old products we used to make, the scooters, the step-throughs, the mopeds, and the motorcycles are in red. And the market shifted in the early 90s, but as you can see, till 99, we were still pushing the old products. And then we were able to rapidly move to a completely new product portfolio. So in our case, we didn't say no to the customer when we should have, but the customer said no to us. And we move on from there to the next one, please. So that was my first lesson. I'm going to just share with you 3 lessons I've learned over this transition. The first lesson is this, as my professor told me: business starts when the customer says no. It's very easy to do business when the customer says yes, but when the customer says no is when you go back to basics. And I think it's not the manufacturer or the IT service provider that shapes the market. It's actually the customer that shapes the market. The customer develops the market, and that's why I believe that the real competitive advantage that India has, for example, over China, which is the subject of much discussion, is the fact that the Indian consumer develops this market to be a superior market than that market, at least as far as my industry is concerned, because our consumer is brand conscious, our consumer is IPR supportive, our consumer is quality centric. So the consumer develops the market. That was my first lesson. We started, next please. When we made our transition, this is how I like to describe it: a transition from making cheap scooters to making expensive motorcycles. And what I mean by this is we focused on the more lifestyle end of the market. In our terminology, we say 125cc plus up to about 300cc. And the key point of our transition was every product that we introduced at a price premium to products that were sold by our global competition in the same market. So we got back to a leadership position, not based on a price position, but on more than a price position. And I think that's really, really important. There's a lot of talk around this place about how the IT industry is facing a slowdown. And as somebody said, what's a slowdown for you from 60% to 30% is fantastic growth for us. So it really depends on your perspective. But nevertheless, I think the most resistant corporate virus is commoditization, and commoditization is bad for any industry. So I think the move to expensive motorcycles was the main point of our transition. The second lesson I learned was this: don't procrastinate, don't defend the past, attack the future, because you always defend the past trying to do better than what you're doing. And unfortunately, in this world, as Sachin said, a very increasingly complex and diverse world, better is just not enough. You know, you're just part of the same rat race, and as someone said, and the problem with the rat race is even if you win, you're still a rat at the end of it. So if you want to be more than a rat, you better, run a different race. And I'd like to take you to the next slide now. This is a slide of the main competitor in red versus Bajaj in blue, not very flattering. And what it shows you is over the years, when we try to compete with our main competitor in the area of their strength, which was the commuter motorcycle, nothing changed. You know, we just lost 7 years of our lives and we stayed where we were. So this is what happens. This whole thing of me too, and I will also provide the same, just a little better, and take a share of the pie away from someone, just doesn't get you anywhere. Next one, please. And lesson 3 from Pele. When you control the ball, you control the score. So if you don't do the me too, if you do something different, if you have a different idea, whether it's a motorcycle or whether it's an IT solution, I think you have a starting point. Unfortunately, the enemy of different is better, and it becomes very hard sometimes to differentiate between what is different and what is better. But to create a unique proposition is really so important, because I think in the end, as countries, as corporations, as people, as businesses, what makes us unique is not what we have in common, but what we have in uncommon. That's what makes us unique, and that's what helps us carve out a space for ourselves in the world or in the world of business. Next, please. So when we did that, when we tried to do something different, and I'll explain in a bit what I mean by that, things changed. First, we won back mind share. Today, 50% of all intending consumers intend to purchase a Bajaj motorcycle. They may not be able to do that immediately because it's more expensive. But first we won back mind share. Then we won back money share. The profitability improved because we were not pushing products out anymore. We were pulling consumers in. And finally then coming to market share. Eventually it shows up in sales as word of mouth gets around. And today we are the leader of that segment, which is a third of the volume of the industry and about 50% by value. We have a market share in excess of 50% once again. Next, please. So if I have to summarize this is what I would like to say. We innovated at the product level with our new engine technology, at the retail level with our Pro Biking stores, at the process level with the new plant. But all innovation must be true to differentiation and not just to doing something better. And we differentiated ourselves based on being a lifestyle brand rather than a commuting brand. Next, in a different, no, not you. Next is to acquire leadership. We put in 4 products into that space, and we grew sales to acquire leadership in the segment. We presented our brand as one that was not just ahead, but distinctly ahead. And finally, that's got to reflect in profitability, because that's the proof of the pudding at the end of the day. Now next. And this is the EBITDA graph. I promise you this is the second last slide or something. Of all the auto companies, and the blue line on top is Bajaj. So that's the validation of our strategy that when you do something different, it might be the longer route, but the differentiated route is the more profitable and the more sustainable route. Next, please. So I think in any business really, simplistically, this is the story. Find your own segment and become a leader in that segment and expand that segment, and don't worry too much about what people around you are doing. So that's what I'd like to say. I'd like to just thank you all once again and wish you a lifetime of, as we like to say, not just being ahead, but being distinctly ahead. Thank you very much.